This is a major, major problem, and you're not wrong to bring it up. It's a problem I just brought up, in fact, a couple of videos ago. It's a huge problem going forward for a lot of people because, so I went into a building, for example, I went into a building supply store, like a smaller place, and the owner came out and was talking to me, and he kept saying, hire contractor for this, hire contractor for that. And I talked about this a couple of videos ago, but I'm like trying to impart upon, to him that, like, dude, I don't have that kind of money. If I had the kind of money to, like, do you think I would not want to hire a bunch of contractors? Of course I would. Dude, of course I would just hire a bunch of contractors and then just, go do my thing. But, like, this is the reality, and this is what I started talking about 3 years ago. In fact, it's actually why I started publicly talking about this 3 years ago. I've privately spoken about this exact issue for better part of 2 decades now. But publicly, I started actually talking about this because I started seeing where this exact question is going. So you're not wrong to ask it, because it's the same problem I deal with. In my business, I have customers that would love to buy products from us, but they don't make enough money to do it. This is the currency breaking down. That's what's happening. As the currency continues to break down, division of labor is just going to keep breaking down, because then contractors. So, like, for example, let's say you're a flat worker or a cement worker, you have to charge X amount of money to justify your time going out there. But the people that need to have the work done, they can't afford any of that. And then, of course, because they can't afford to pay any of this, you also can't afford to pay your people more money, right? Like, this is because of the dollar. And, and I've just resigned myself that I suck at trying to explain this stuff. I've spent better part of 3 years publicly trying to explain the problem lies in the US dollar. If the government and bankers can print dollars from nothing, and they can, if they can just print dollars from nothing at will, whenever they want, and pay for whatever they want. They can pay for nuclear submarines. They can pay for bases to be built. They can pay to bomb little kids in other countries. They can do all this stuff. As long as people keep accepting US dollars, that will continue, and their spending power will continue to go down. It will continue to erode, because you can't conjure dollars from nothing. Or, at least you're not supposed to. And it's getting harder and harder to counterfeit digital dollars anyway, because most of the dollar is digital now. It's not even paper money anymore. So yeah, that's a major problem, and it creates a situation called pocket inflation, or pocketed inflation, which is what I've talked about here. So, not to get too deep into the technicals, but this will be a little boring, but I'll just try and explain it. As long as they can keep printing it, it will keep devaluing the spending power of other people, which means that you as a contractor, me as a contractor, need to charge more and more dollars to people who, like, they still have it stuck in their mind that $50,000, $100,000 a year is a lot of money, or $400,000 a year is a lot of money. It's not. Think of the dollar like the peso, like the Mexican peso. When I was a kid, it was like 4,000 pesos to buy a Coke, right? Well, yeah, that's kind of the way you have to think of the dollar. And this is the part where anybody whose wealth, or who their identity is tied up in dollars, they're going to push back really hard. No different than the LGBT people, right? A lot of LGBT people, I'm not criticizing them. I know lots of LGBT people, but a lot of them, my criticism is that is their entire personality. Like, there's nothing more to them. They're boring as fuck. So, yeah, it's the same kind of thing with people who are attached to the US dollar. Their whole identity, their existence, their pretend wealth all comes from dollars. And dollars don't have any meaning because by virtue, they have no mathematical or intrinsic value to them. Nothing. So, yeah, this is really... The question you're asking is probably the best question out there. It's the question. It's a problem that lots of us in business have been running into for many decades now. And it's just going to continue to get worse. as time goes on, because the dollar spending power is just going to continue to be eroded. Oh yeah. You'll be able to buy all these little luxuries, your iPhones, which are heavily subsidized, which by the way, I mean, all of the smartphones, all the technology is heavily subsidized. And it's because they want your data. They're just gathering data. So of course they're going to subsidize the hell out of it, because they're using, the data is worth more to them than the dollars, because they can print the dollars from nothing. Right? And you're like, well, but they're private companies versus the government and bankers and stuff. No, they're all the same people. They all went to the island. They're all the same people. They're all the same fucking people. It's like, that's just it. It's the same people that control all of this. So, yeah, I mean, they want the data because the data is worth more. And why is it worth more? Well, it's because think of it like this. I'm trying to think of how I want to say this without getting myself in too much trouble. This video will probably already be banned, but without getting myself in too much trouble, they need your data to make sure you can't overthrow them. See, every little data marker, every little piece of digital fingerprint that you leave anywhere in the country, they can backtrack all of it. And they can use, they use a negative algorithm to backtrack all that stuff. And so they need that. That is more important to them, because that's part of their survival, because they're parasites, right? All the people who went to the island, all the people that those people have hired. So that includes your pigs and military. Sorry, pigs and military, but dude, you guys are parasites. You're hired you're hired by the scum of the fucking earth, and paid in company store bucks, and your lives are markedly better than everybody else who's doing all the work to support your sorry asses. It's the fucking truth. So, yeah, it's a big problem with this. And of course, this is the problem. The people who do all the work, once they can no longer survive doing all the work, then many of the people who do all the work just say, they throw their hands up and say, dude, forget it. Like, I'm not going to do any more work. This happened in the Roman Empire. It happened in the Soviet Empire. It's happened throughout every empire there is, because the people who do all the work eventually say, dude, you're taking advantage of me, and I'm not going to do any more goddamn work for you. And then that's when the pew-pews come out. That's when the mass graves come out. That's when, like, all that stuff. And of course, nowadays it'll be done technologically. It won't be done physically. They can't do the mow down people. Like, they can't do that anymore. They can't do that kind of stuff anymore. There's just too many cameras everywhere. So they can't do that. But what they can do is demonize everybody and make you into a criminal, and on and on. And like that they can do. And so this is, I hate to just like tear into all, but it's like, dude, the question you're asking, it's a huge question. It's the question of this millennium, actually. Until the US dollar dies, it is the question that everybody is going to be asking over and over and over. How do I do this? How do I pay people? Yeah, that's the problem. So are there alternative currencies? Yes, there are. There are plenty of them that are way better than the US dollar. Gold and orange internet money come rocketing to mind. Those are two just off the top of my head. Because, in gold's case, it has intrinsic value by virtue of the price paid to pull it out of the ground. I'll argue anybody on that, even the von Mises people on that one. And I'll win. The same thing can be said about, and the same thing can be said about orange internet money. Once again, it's like it has mathematical value. Mathematical meaning that it is actually mathematically limited. It is, in fact, finite, and we know how much there is. So it can't be counterfeited. Anything that can't be counterfeited or conjured from nothing is going to be extraordinarily valuable if you understand that. And of course, if you have enough people who have the will to understand that, and who are willing to let go of the illusion of wealth provided by fiat currency like the US dollar and other currencies. It isn't just a dollar, it's every other currency. That's why the government is like freaking out right now, because they're trying to figure out how they're going to pay interest on fake debt. So that's why the orange shitfuck is all worried about, refinancing the interest rather than just imploding the dollar, sending everybody, $10 zillion each, every American, and just saying, yeah, pay it all off and just let $100 bills blow around the corners everywhere and be done with it. And then start over, which is what happened, when the continental dollar collapsed. And that's what should happen now. I'm all over the place on that. I know that, but it's like, it's a huge, huge fucking question, man.